I think we were already recording. You had already hit it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so um with the dark retreat, I have two best friends of mine did short dark retreat. My friend Kevin did I think a 5 day, and then my friend Ricardo did a 2 day. And also my friend Marco that I'm working on a book with, he's done extended dark retreat too. But I think the most he's done is like 2 weeks at a time. So in the dark retreat, it's really primed for dream yoga. I mean, that and clear light sleep. That's really its function. You're not doing anything else. You don't have, you eat in the dark, you use the bathroom in the dark. So that line, that barrier between the dreaming reality and the waking reality becomes obscured, and it can be very intense for some people. Yeah, my friend Ricardo could only handle 2 days of it before he had to exit. He was supposed to do 5. Um, yeah. So actually, oh, there's another student who's done 40 days, and he had something interesting to say about it. He said he started to have this really just a really profound breakthrough to the point where it seemed that his he was gonna exit like this life, basically just not return to his body. And he told me he had a choice, which was either to leave the retreat and take things in stages with the awakening, or stay, but the price would be death. So I don't know how true it was, but he's a psychology PhD, and this wasn't like a random story from a guy that was tripping at Burning Man. He's a very coherent person. So it was interesting. I think of all the people I've seen or met do it, that one guy has really done it. Because some people, like some of my other friends, they've done dark retreat, but they have their phones. They have these glasses and then they have a blue light blocker on the phone, and they're like, oh, I'll just use it here and there, and then you end up like on the phone in the dark. It's like, come on.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. So, because there's personal dark retreats that you do in your home, and then if you go to a center, it's more structured. But yeah, so that's how it goes. Delson has actually done, I think he said he did 90 days in the dark when he was really young, like in his early 20s. He did a dark retreat. But in his case, his teacher would come to the cave and meet with him every couple days, I believe. Yeah, and taught and give him advice and see what was going on. And that makes a big difference. That's very different than you're just alone out there. Yeah, when you have that human to human contact, it makes it a definitely a more stable experience.
And that would seem to be the case for sure.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we can get into the discussion for today. We're gonna end class early, so today we'll just have this hour, and then you're all dismissed. Um, Lately, as part of the Bardo process and bringing practice into as much of what we do as possible, I've been emphasizing the mode 2 practice. Sorry, I forgot to spotlight myself. The mode 2 practice, which for anyone that isn't familiar with that, that's just looking at awareness. So looking at that which becomes aware and that which becomes unaware, which is your mind. And so initially, and even throughout the career of the practitioner, this constancy of our awareness fluctuates. You may notice that on retreats or in periods of more contemplative solitude, for example, where you're less busy or using your mind, that is more of this awareness, more of this presence. But to be clear again and elaborate further, this continuity of our awareness is a conditioned thing. Meaning if the conditions are favorable, like you're in a retreat center, you happen to not be worrying about much, you don't have much to do, and you're sitting quite a bit, then you notice that naturally this continuity of your awareness is more stable, it's more consistent. So something that all of you can do is to begin to study your mind in this regard. You know, what is it that supports those conditions, and what are those conditions exactly? So in my case, I know exactly what needs to be done in order to hit this threshold of continuity where then I find myself aware naturally most of the day. It takes a certain degree of immersion in one's practice, or in my practice, for that to occur. When it occurs, it's suddenly like the contents of the mind are suppressed. So if we look at mind on an ordinary day, if I look at mind on an ordinary day, there's a certain level of internal dialogue. It's not inner conversations, but it's just internal dialogue. It's maybe commentary on what is being seen, or there'll be verbal memories, for example. And when this threshold of immersion or concentration is passed, then suddenly all of that content that drags one out of the present moment is suppressed. So this is really, in a sense, the value of sitting and the value of starting your day with meditation. The present moment in of itself is entirely sufficient. It's entirely complete. It's entirely perfect in of itself. You know, this doorknob is 1000% this doorknob. This doorknob is 1000% present. This doorknob is 1000% radiant. So as Peter Brown said, the present moment is already a done deal. This is the place that we never actually leave. I call it the here, or I've called it this. I've called it radiant presence. I've called it the field of experience. Fundamentally, it's always this. And to see this, to recognize this, is the definition of awakening. So initially, this is obscured. We are ignorant of this very evident truth that reality is always the case. Reality is unbroken. Reality is continuous. Initially, we perceive consciousness to be experiencing reality, and upon investigation, we find that consciousness and reality are two words for the same thing. We can't actually find this internal thing that is experiencing anything. When we investigate and when we examine, we find that there's just the experience. There's just experience, and that experience is not apart from consciousness. You never have an experience outside consciousness. You never have consciousness outside experience. You never have consciousness outside consciousness. You never have experience outside experience. There are words for the same thing in actuality. But that's not apparent. That is not evident. It takes investigation to begin to see this. So our condition initially is one of ignorance. The field is always present. The field is always immediate. The field is always perfect. It actually never holds back. Experience never holds back. Even the thoughts we have of holding back, even the thoughts we have of insufficiency, the thoughts we have and the feelings we have of insubordinacy, every single one of those thoughts, every single one of those feelings is 1000% what it is. The feeling of I'm almost there, bang, that's 1000% the feeling of I'm almost there. I don't quite get it, bang, 1000% reality. I really need to figure it out, bang, 1000% reality. But the suffering is born of the belief in the interpretations that are held to be true about this. When this is not actually presenting any particular viewpoint, particular interpretation. Interpretations are born of thought and analysis. The field itself, yeah, well, interpretations are the field itself, right? But it's not like this doorknob is presenting any particular way that it should be guarded. It's just a doorknob. The belief in the narratives is really where all of our suffering occurs. And it takes investigation for those narratives and structures to be realized or seen as unreal, to be realized and seen as children manifestations of the field itself. They just happen to be manifestations that cause suffering. One of my teachers said, the first thing to do is to awaken. And the second thing to do is to remain in awakening. The first thing is to realize the actual condition of things, this immediacy, this perfection, this isness of everything that appears. The second thing to do is to remain in this. It's paradoxical because this is actually all that's ever happening. So when I say remain, it makes it seem like an activity. It makes it seem like something we have to strive for. But what's actually occurring is that this primordially free, natural state of everything as it is it becomes obscured by our habitual tendencies, our tendencies to analyze, our tendencies to judge, our tendencies to evaluate and regard things as better or worse or more favorable or less favorable. These types of fixations and habits that the mind engages in obscures this natural state. And in that obscuration, we begin to enter dynamics with the objects in experience and begin to regard them as self, as I, me, and mine. And based on that, the whole edifice of suffering emerges. If those narrative processes cease, if the mind's capacity to regard, or the mind's habit really to regard experiences in a particular way, if that ceases suddenly, there's no suffering, even if there's suffering. That means even if there's a feeling of depression or a feeling of doubt that arises, the sensations of that doubt and the sensations of that depression are directly known. And instead of spinning off into narratives about, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I messed up, I regret this, I regret that, it is just the raw energy of that spontaneous state or that spontaneous feeling that has arisen. That raw energy can be discomforting. It can be uncomfortable. And because it's uncomfortable and unpleasant, our mind becomes distracted from it. Ignorance is really just unawareness. And when unawareness arises, which means our mind forgets this natural condition, it forgets this presence, this immediacy, this non-conceptual reality. When our mind forgets this, now the mind is under the spell of ignorance. Ignorance is just the forgetting, just the not knowing our natural state. With ignorance as condition comes the karmic formations or the habitual tendencies. They're called karmic formations because their power comes from the amount of time, or the a way to explain it is like, imagine a riverbed, and the water moves in specific has specific movements through that riverbed, and so it makes these grooves in the sand, these specific patterns. The karmic formations are like that. The reason that you think the same stuff every day is because you've always thought the same stuff every day. The reason that we have the same struggles for years or for decades is because those habitual mental tendencies, they're like grooves in that riverbed. And because of those grooves, because it's something the mind is so accustomed to, it has more weight than things that it's not accustomed to. So for example, you have a problem with let's say you have a particular vexation or reaction that um, you know isn't particularly useful or helpful. Like that kind of dynamic or that particular affliction really gets you, but the other ones don't. They have no effect on you. You know, you may notice that other people, they tend to be engaged in jealousy very easily, but those same conditions hit you and it has zero effect. You have no reason to be jealous, right? But the set of conditions which the mind is accustomed to, those will produce an effect. So if you're an angry person, conditions that will make you angry will affect you much more than, for example, conditions that provoke anxiety. You're like, I don't deal with anxiety. It's not a thing. That's because the pathway for the habitual tendencies in the mind are not developed for that particular condition or that particular affliction, but they're developed for other ones. So when unawareness arises, we forget this natural condition of things just as they are, and this natural condition of presence. Then those habitual patterns and formations are actually able to emerge. Some of you may have been noticing this with the amount of conscious attention or conscious awareness you've been developing, but you may notice that you only suffer when your mind is distracted. You only suffer when you are diverted from this natural state. from presence, from this. When you're aware, whether there's intention behind it or whether it's without intention, when you're aware, suffering is not arising. The mind lapses, attention lapses, mind falls into unawareness. And then with that, bang, the whole edifice of tendencies can arise. So we say the first thing is to awaken, and the second thing is to remain in awakening, or the first thing is to recognize the enlightenment that is the nature of your mind, the thisness. And the second thing is to remain in that, but it's a play on words. It's not actually that we're remaining in this. Is that this is the original state, and all that needs to be done is for what obstructs the original state to gradually weaken, which are those habitual tendencies. If there were no habitual tendencies, if there was no ignorance, if there was no lapsing into unawareness, it would just be this. And I mean awareness of this, right? So in Dzogchen and many places you hear the word Guruyoga. Guruyoga. The guru is reality. The guru is the natural state. The guru is the immediacy of perfection, this intelligence. Yoga is practice. So yoga is considered action. So guru yoga means to be in the state of the guru, to be in this state of primordial freedom. Like I've said before, reality / consciousness, it's never increasing or decreasing. Irrespective of what happens in our waking state and the trials and afflictions that we suffer, and even the awakenings or insights that are gained, reality is never increasing or decreasing. It's never getting more, it's never getting less. You lose your limbs, reality doesn't increase or decrease. You gain insight into the 3 supernormal knowledges of Theravada Buddhism, reality doesn't increase or decrease. You see 10,000 of your past lives, reality doesn't increase or decrease. You make it to the higher self level and you see the ocean of incarnations that are being dreamed by this vast cosmic intelligence. Reality is never increasing or decreasing. In any state or configuration, reality is never increasing or decreasing. It is primordially free. It cannot be killed. So, since this nature of our mind that is never increasing or decreasing, that's never subject to afflictions, what is it that is subject to afflictions? It's merely just the presence of the afflictions themselves and the sense of identity that arises in tandem with those afflictions. And still in that, no increasing or decreasing of thisness. Thisness, this here-ness, is a constant, even though we can't find any permanent object or permanent phenomena. The impermanence is the only permanent. So to remain in liberation or to continue in liberation just means to see that this is already so, this is already the case, but unawareness arises, and then the chain of dependent origination continues or begins. The habitual tendencies come up, the impulses come up, and there's grasping at those impulses. But the grasping of those impulses, there's suffering. So Guru Yoga is to just practice enlightenment. Guru Yoga is to as some people would put it, remain in awakening. What that actually means is to just remain aware of this. That just means to notice actuality, to notice this. In noticing this and in beginning to directly taste what actually is present, we gradually begin to live beyond the confines of the conceptual mind. You know, what it is that we think about a thing is never as rich as the thing itself. What it is that we remember about a feeling is never as rich as the feeling itself. So to begin to live in this direct perception and this direct taste of illumination is ultimately what brings us to the understanding that all beings are fundamentally enlightened. All beings are fundamentally Buddhas. All beings are this state. We're just unaware of it. Awakening can mean so many things. It's a relative term. It depends on how it's defined. But how I would define it is very much just the end of sleep, sleeping through life. In the sense that for the ordinary person, it's rare to ever have even a single moment of total conscious presence. It's rare to have a single moment of genuine here-ness. And it's even rarer to see that your mind, your nature is just what appears. This recognition is really the gem. It's the diamond in your pocket, the diamond in your pocket that reveals to you that you were always free. You just thought you were bound. You know, a lot of people ask me how far along they are in their process of awakening. And when that's still something that is of a major concern to us, it means that we're still in time and that we're still attempting to get somewhere. But really only the only practice is to practice thisness. It's to practice Guruyoga. This is the guru. This is the illumination. But we look for it elsewhere. Because of habitual tendencies, we seek external things when it's really always just been your mind. When we're trying to figure out where it is we are, it means that our reference point is still in thought. It's still in maps. It's still in structures which we've inherited from the spiritual heirs of history. But the truth is, you experience all those things as thoughts, as ideas, even many of the things that I've shared and that I've experienced. You meet those in the form of ideas which I'm conveying to you. Ideas last millennia. Ideas, structures of thought, these things are the basis for a great deal of freedom, or what we regard as freedom in our world. But the idea that results in salvation, which is the truth that there's no one to be saved and nothing to be saved. How can there be salvation if you're already free? How can there really be enlightenment if you're already free? How can there actually be a path if you're already free? If these ideas of Dharma can get you to see that and to taste this, to eat this, to drink this, to walk this, to live this, then those ideas are worthy of praise. Those texts, those teachers, they're worthy of praise. Why? Because they help you. They're crucial in you finding yourself. But it's that is liberation, finding oneself. Realizing that the word oneself is just another word for this. I is an event in this field. Us, we, them. Labels for apparitions of this field, of this nature, of reality. And when we see things as that, we taste this primordial freedom. It still takes time for our vexations to die. It still takes time for our habitual tendencies to be overturned. It takes time for unawareness to gradually fall away. But all along it was the same. All along it was always this state. All along it was always the present. All along it was always reality. But we live in worlds of thoughts. Worlds of endless stories. There's a line in Radiant Presence, which is Yoga Radiant Presence, which is one of my favorite. It says, intelligence forgetting itself suffers from its own imagined worlds. Imagined worlds are the worlds of interpretation that we live in, of I'm this or I'm that, the world of shoulds. But when we really look deeply, we find all of those things are actually empty. They're all like mist. Where I think I've been is memory. Where I think I'm going is the mind's capacity to project into the future, its mental pictures. How the body is regarded is thought. Where you are on your path, what you think about that is feeling. You can't actually find any of these things. So the Heart Sutra says, no eyes, no ears, no tongue, no mind, no realm of sight, no realm of mind, no body, no consciousness. Therefore, no ignorance, no karmic formations, no no consciousness, which in that case refers to the consciousnesses of the senses. No four elements, earth, water, wind, fire, that comprise the body. No mind, which is of five elements, I believe. Attention, intention, memory, perception. I think awareness might be the fifth one. When it says no, it doesn't mean that those things are not evident or apparent. No means that these things are empty. They're like mist. We can't find them. We can't single them out. For example, attention. What is attention? Attention is a localization of perception. And what is perception? The capacity to perceive. It's a mental faculty. But when we look at the capacity for perception in consciousness, or the function of attention, or the function of intention, or even awareness, you look at any of these things and you can't pin them down. We know they're there, but they're not solid. So we take this amorphous soup of internal experience and textures and strata of phenomena in the mind, and we call that I. Without awareness, without intention, without memory, without perception, definitely you would not have a sense of an I. Even awareness is a very, very profound thing, in the sense that you can only compare it to its absence, which is unawareness. There's no awareness in dreams, for example. If there was, you'd be lucid in them. So just to consider the difference between the awareness of dreaming, or the unawareness of dreaming, and the awareness of now in this present state. Now we're aware. Now we're conscious. You can determine the principle by comparing it to its absence. Look at dreaming and look at now. What is the difference? The difference is this element of being conscious, this element of being aware. For Guru Yoga, the yoga is being aware. Guru is this natural state. It just means to continue in the natural state of being free. This natural state of immediacy, of thisness. And why is it a yoga? Why is it a practice? Why is it presented in that way? Because this world is distraction. This life is endless preoccupation. And those preoccupations have the effect of causing us to forget ourselves. Ramana Maharshi put it very succinctly. He said, "You're only in bondage because you have the thought that I'm in bondage." You're only in bondage because of the presence of identification. We're only trying to get free because there's a concept of freedom. We're only trying to attain inner peace or peace because the concept of peace and inner peace exists. The attainment of that idea or that ideal and the pursuit of that idea and that ideal is the very thing which obstructs the richness of the immediacy of this. Forget everything for a moment. Just forget everything. Like nothing ever happened before. And nothing's going to happen after this. Just forget all of it. And it's just this here. It's just this what it's always been. But then in a few seconds or in a few minutes, our mind will enter time. It will remember its reference points. And it will then be subject to suffering. But if you can forget everything and just be this, the richness of the guru, the amrita, the soma, the elixir of immortality is not, waiting somewhere at the end of a rainbow. The elixir of immortality is the deathlessness of now. The realization of this never increasing or decreasing. It's this that is the kingdom, the salvation. True freedom is not something that happens or that can happen in time, because then it would be conditioned. What isn't conditioned? What is it that the past, the present, and the future is appearing in? It's just this. As your afflictions and vexations overturn, the power of ignorance over your nature weakens, and there becomes less falling into forgetfulness. But it was still just this. The only difference is that there's less attention and awareness on content. There's no longer a fixation on experiences. There's no longer a fixation on what happens, because you have found that every happening is the same thing. Every event, person, place, feeling, taste, touch, sound, idea is this. So if you see that it's fundamentally just this, what left is there to seek? Because whatever you find is this. God is constant in the three times. It's another word for reality. The orchestration of synchronicity is pure intelligence. But when we look for that intelligence, we can't find it apart from this. We can't find this thing behind, this thing outside reality. It may exist, I don't know, but even at that meta programming code level of reality, that's also reality. There's just no awareness there. That's the profound, unusual thing about it. It doesn't know itself. Yeah, so Guruyoga is your main thing. It's your main practice. Why is it the main practice? Because it's actually the only thing that is ever happening. But our awareness and attention is elsewhere. To just notice the only thing that is ever happening, the one event that's a non-event, the one reality that is empty of itself, the one reality that is no reality. You taste and drink freedom until everything that obscures that freedom, all the habitual tendencies that result in the forgetting of this freedom. You drink this, you do this Guruyoga until those tendencies, those narratives cease. They cease in either the seeing of them as unreal, or they cease in their arising. Both are sufficient. And when that occurs, the primordial state will not be obstructed. It will not be obstructed by itself. Let's see where we are on time. That may, I don't know, it may have been the whole hour. Wow, that was the whole hour. Hilarious. Okay. So I'm gonna stop the recording and then let's sit together in silence for 5 minutes. And then that'll be the end of class today. I have to end this one early. But next Sunday we'll do our regular 2 hours, and then Wednesday also our regular time.